The Galactic Defense Academy's training grounds stretched across the crimson plains of Kepler 442b, where the twin suns cast long shadows through the crystalline atmosphere. Alexander Chen wiped sweat from his brow as he stood in formation with 43 other cadets from 17 different species, all awaiting the arrival of their final evaluator. The rumors had been circulating for weeks. The Vorthak Empire's most legendary war beast, Shadow Maw, would be selecting its next handler from their graduating class. No creature in known space possessed the tactical intelligence and raw destructive power of a fully bonded Vorthak war beast. The partnership was said to be unbreakable, telepathic, and absolutely lethal on the battlefield. Emma Rodriguez, standing 2 positions to Alexander's left, caught his nervous glance and offered a reassuring smile. The Brazilian pilot had become his closest friend during their grueling 3-year training program, and her steady confidence had gotten him through more than one crisis of faith. "Relax, Alex," she whispered. "Whatever happens, we've made it this far." The ground trembled, then again stronger. The assembled cadets straightened as a massive transport vessel descended from the amber sky, its hull scarred from countless battles. The ship settled with surprising grace for something the size of a city block, and its cargo bay door began to lower with a hydraulic hiss that echoed across the training ground. Instructor Veltar, a towering Xanthari with 6 arms and compound eyes, raised one appendage for silence. "Cadets, you are about to meet Shadow Maw of the Crimson Fleet. This creature has served in 47 major engagements across the Outer Rim. It has outlived 12 handlers, not through betrayal or abandonment, but because war took them before their time. Shadow Maw chooses its own partner. It cannot be commanded, bribed, or fooled. Stand ready." The first thing that emerged from the transport wasn't Shadow Maw. It was the smell, ancient, predatory, like ozone and copper, and something indefinably alien. Then came the sound, a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through their bones rather than their ears. Shadow Maw stepped into the light, and several cadets took involuntary steps backward. The war beast stood nearly 3 meters at the shoulder, its hide a shifting pattern of midnight blue and silver that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. 6 limbs ended in claws that could shred starship hull plating. Its head was leonine but wrong, with too many eyes arranged in asymmetrical patterns, and a maw that housed rows of crystalline teeth designed to tear through energy shields as easily as flesh. But it was the intelligence in those alien eyes that truly unsettled. This was no mere animal. It was a weapon with the cunning of a general and the loyalty of a knight. Shadow Maw began its evaluation. The creature moved down the line with deliberate precision, stopping before each cadet. To the Altarian, it gave a dismissive sniff and moved on. The Corvan warrior, bred for combat, received a longer examination before Shadow Maw's interest waned. A few cadets trembled as the war beast studied them with those impossible eyes, but most held their ground admirably. Emma stood perfectly still as Shadow Maw approached, her breathing controlled, her posture respectful but unafraid. The creature's massive head lowered until it was mere centimeters from her face, studying her with an intensity that made the air itself seem to thicken. For a long moment, predator and human regarded each other. Then Shadow Maw huffed almost approvingly and continued down the line. Alexander felt his heart hammering as the war beast drew closer. He tried to remember his training, tried to project confidence and capability, but mostly he just tried not to collapse as those alien eyes fixed on him. Shadow Maw stopped. The creature's examination of Alexander was different. Where it had given others moments, it gave him long minutes. The war beast circled him slowly, that rumbling purr growing deeper. It sniffed at his hands, his chest, his hair. Then, without warning, it sat. The training ground fell completely silent. Shadow Maw's massive head tilted, and when it spoke, its voice was like thunder rolling across mountains, transmitted directly into their minds through its telepathic abilities. "Handler of storms," it said, the words carrying overtones of respect and something that might have been amusement. Instructor Veltar's compound eyes widened in obvious surprise. "In 47 years of service, Shadow Maw has never—" "This one has seen the eye of chaos and remained centered," the war beast continued, still focused on Alexander. "This one has felt the weight of worlds and not broken. The storm recognizes its handler." Alexander stared in shock. "I don't understand. I'm nobody special. I barely made it through basic training." Emma grinned despite the solemnity of the moment. She knew what Shadow Maw had sensed. Alexander had grown up in the aftermath of the Chicago bombardment, had spent his childhood pulling survivors from rubble, while plasma fire rained from the sky. He'd never spoken of it, but she'd seen him in crisis situations, the unnatural calm, the ability to think clearly when everything was falling apart around him. "You are the child of catastrophe who chose to heal rather than harm," Shadow Maw replied. "You are the human who stared into the abyss and decided to build bridges across it. You are exactly what I have been waiting for." The war beast rose and moved to Alexander's side, its massive bulk somehow protective rather than threatening. "We have wars to end, Handler of Storms. Are you ready?" Alexander looked at Emma, who nodded encouragingly, then at the assembled cadets and instructors, all watching him with expressions ranging from awe to envy to simple confusion. Finally, he reached out and placed his hand on Shadow Maw's flank. The creature's hide was warm and seemed to pulse with barely contained energy. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm ready." As if responding to some unspoken signal, both human and war beast turned toward the transport ship. Their bond was already forming, invisible threads of trust and understanding weaving between minds that had evolved on worlds thousands of light years apart. Emma watched them go with pride and just a touch of sadness. She'd always known Alexander was destined for something extraordinary. She just hadn't expected it to take him so far from home. But that was humanity's gift to the galaxy, she realized. They didn't just survive storms. They learned to dance with them, to turn chaos into hope and devastation into opportunity. Somewhere out in the vast darkness between stars, that partnership would make all the difference. The Handler of Storms and his war beast disappeared into their ship, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them. Together,